today to have John Phillips to speak with us about some of his ideas in the book, how they came about. Peggy Chin, who will discuss the book and the contributions she sees it as making to the science and nursing science in general, and Marlene Smith, the president of SRS. First, however, I would like to thank, first let me say that, of course, it's the Society of Rogerian Scholars, SRS, that published this book back in mid-July. And the actual work was done by the Resource Development Committee of SRS. I chair that group, and I'd like to give a big shout out of thanks to all of the members who worked so hard to make this happen. Patricia Bartzak. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to get my cat out of the way. Howard Butcher, Jane Flanagan, Dorothy Jones, Dorothy Larkin, Sean Reed, who was instrumental in making this book launch happen, and Marlene Smith. Often we've heard complaints across the years about the difficulty that people have accessing accurate information about the science of unitary human beings. And so we in the committee decided the thing to do was to write a book that would point people in the right direction and illuminate their thinking as the writings have illuminated ours. And of course, the person we thought of was John R. Phillips, who is the preeminent Rogerian scholar today. He was a colleague and friend of Martha Rogers. When Martha retired from teaching at NYU, it's John that she asked to take over teaching her graduate course, The Science of Unitary Human Beings. And John did that beautifully until his retirement from NYU. He has written prolifically over the years. His conceptualizations have advanced the way we think about the science in creative ways that none of us could have considered. It came from John. We decided to arrange the readings chronologically so that we could show the evolution of the science. They represent the years 1999 to 1990 to 2023. There are a total of 19 reprinted chapters, plus an epilogue written specifically by John for this volume. And we chose to reprint Martha Rogers' seminal article from 1992 Nursing Science Quarterly, Nursing Science and the Space Age. The book is available on Amazon in both paperback and ebook formats. It is also available on Ingram Spark, and through Ingram Spark, it is available in outlets such as Barnes & Noble. So there are a number of ways that you can access the book. Now I would like to turn it over to Dr. Marlene Smith, the president of the Society of Rogerian Scholars, who will talk with you about our organization. Marlene?
Thank you so much, Violet. And I'd like to add my welcome to everybody for being here. And I think I speak for all of the members of the Society of Rogerian Scholars in saying that we are really thrilled to have published the new book. And I'm going to show it too, since we all are. Evolving Rogerian Nursing Science, John R. Phillips Contributions. And also thrilled to hold this book launch today with all of you listening out there, and also with some of my favorite people here on the panel. So our hope is that you will really spread the word about this book and talk about it to your colleagues, your students, your bookstores, acquisition people at your libraries. We've really needed this, as Violet said, we've really needed this book for some time. And Martha Rogers' first book, and I decided to show this to you too, because you can see how worn it is. An Introduction to the Theoretical Basis of Nursing was published in 1970. And in the next decades, the science of unitary human beings really changed considerably. And Martha disseminated these new updates in her book chapters, journal articles, and of course in her presentations. But we didn't have another book about the science of unitary human beings to suggest to students or to scholars who are interested in studying it. So now we do. And it's a wonderful compilation, as Violet said, of 20 articles by John, if you're including the epilogue, and chapters, and also the chapter on that Martha authored on nursing science in the space age. So this whole book, as Violet said, John is the most authoritative source on Rogerian nursing science today. So to have that, and of course the article by Martha herself, it's a wonderful compilation for all of us to have. So the Society of Rogerian Scholars really was dreaming about publishing this book when we developed our strategic plan, and that was in 2021. And it became a reality for us we published it in July with the leadership of Violet Malinsky and the dedicated and hardworking resource development committee of the Society of Rogerian Scholars. We also had the help of launchmybook.com, a company who supported us as we ventured into the unfamiliar world of self-publishing. So publishing this book is consistent with the mission of our organization. And so we've priced it so that it is accessible to everyone. It's, I think we leave $24.99 for the hard copy and much less for the Birch, the other copy, Kindle copy. So we hope that when you purchase the book, you will post your review on Amazon or any other book site. So now I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the Society of Rogerian Scholars, or SRS as we call it. So our mission is to advance nursing science through an emphasis on the science of unitary human beings in education, research, and practice, and in service to humankind. The Society was born in 1986 in Martha Rogers' living room in her Greenwich Village apartment. And besides Martha, the founders were Elizabeth Barrett, Violet Malinsky, John Phillips, and Therese Connell-Meehan. So the purpose of SRS is to advance nursing as a basic science and to explore the meaning of the philosophy of wholeness for nursing, to provide forums for education and for scholarly debate, to foster understanding about the use of the science of unitary human beings as a basis for theory development, research, education, and practice, and to provide avenues for dissemination of information related to the science of unitary human beings. So toward that realization of the mission, we hold annual conferences, and we are having our next conference October 20th to the 22nd through Zoom. We welcome abstracts, and there are many presenters who have submitted abstracts. We have speakers at the conference. This conference, we have the keynote, Dr. Dorothy Jones. Dr. John Phillips is the endnote, and our special guest speaker is Dr. Dorothy Larkin. The MER Scholars Fund sponsors a lecture, and that happens on Friday. So that would be October 20th. And Dr. Arlene Farron will be delivering that lecture. And for those that are really new to the science, I think attending this lecture is just a great opportunity to get an overview, kind of a foundational overview of Rogerian nursing science. So registration for the conference is open on our website, and the website is Society of Rogerian Scholars.org. And the other thing we're doing is holding dialogues on unitary science about every other month. We've skipped summer, haven't started yet in September, but plan to do so soon. And these dialogues are open. They encourage, reflection, questions, discussion about unitary science. And sometimes we'll discuss an article that we suggest, or somebody will do a little presentation about the research they're doing or project they're doing, and we have discussion about that. Or sometimes it's open, just an open discussion with, questions, and you have, experts on Rogerian nursing science there to kind of add some perspective on questions. So it's very informal, and I think it's fun. So we hope to see some of you there. You can check out our website for the information about the next dialogue. And finally, we welcome membership in SRS. You'll find that our dues are very reasonable at $55 a year, and that fee includes a year's subscription to our journal, Visions Rogerian Nursing Science Scholarship, and that is now contained in Advances in Nursing Science. So if you have a membership, you get Advances in Nursing Science that includes Visions. So if you have any questions, you can reach out at rogerianscholars@gmail.com. I'm happy to get back to you. So back to you, Violet.
Well, thank you, Marlene. Now, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my friend John Phillips. As I indicated, he taught at NYU for many years, was beloved by the doctoral students in particular. Marlene was one. And in the book, as part of the introduction, you will find folks who had John as their dissertation chair talking about what it was like to work with him. John also, as Marlene indicated, is one of the original founders of the Society of Rogerian Scholars. So John, take it away.
First, I'd like to thank SRS and Violet and her committee for the beauty of the book, and also Rosemary Parsi for giving permission to use the articles that I wrote in her Nursing Science Quarterly, and of course, thank Martha for what she has given to me over many years. I knew Martha for many years, first as a student in her doctoral theory course, and then as a colleague faculty member when she was chairperson of the Division of Nursing at NYU, and most importantly, as a friend. A span of years from 1970 to 1994, when she physically died. And I like to imagine that I have a personal, non-local form of communication with Rogers, who is still living in the universe, where some of my ideas may have come from. Some of my writings in the book were presentations of new ideas and concepts in the Rogerian conferences. Also, new ideas and concepts that I created while I was teaching Rogers' Science of Unitary Human Beings at NYU. When Violet called me about the book, I was a little shocked because I never expected it. And the image that went through my mind was a small little book that wasn't very large. However, that did not turn out to be that way. I would like to start with the idea of Martha Rogers' 1992 article. When I spoke with Violet, I said to myself, I wish that article would be in the book. And I guess I thought so hard about it that one day Violet called me and said, Martha's article is going to be in the book. And I don't remember, Violet, what I said, but it was, oh, I'm so glad, I'm pleased, thank you, or whatever I said. But I would encourage all people who buy the book to first read the article by Martha. because that will give you the most written writing of her Science of Unitary Human Beings. And also, I would ask that when you think about writing, that you write in such a way that you can publish what you have presented. So I would first like to share some suggestions with you about Roger's article. I think it would be very beneficial to you if you created a little poster. And at the top of the poster, you write in the postulates: energy field, openness, pattern, and pan-dimensional. And underneath that, theories: theory of accelerating change and theory of the paranormal. These two theories are very crucial to her Science of Unitary Human Beings. And I sometimes wondered why she didn't create some other theories, but she never did. The reason you should read the article is that over the years, Rogers made many, many changes in her Science of Unitary Human Beings. In fact, she started in writing, I don't know when she started in thinking, in this Science of Unitary Human Beings in 1961. 1961. And it wasn't until 1970 that it came out in book form. Of course, that book, quote, is basically outdated as far as the current article of Martha is. So you must read it first, and also read it to see if what I have written is congruent with what Rogers has written. So create that little poster. And by the way, I discussed all the changes in one of the articles in the book. And Rogers was very clear that her science is open-ended, which gave us the latitude to do some thinking and writing about her science and see where we can go with that. The other thing I would like to show is another chapter that I wrote, chapter 5 in the book, Evolution of the Science of Unitary Human Beings. In there is a little table or figure that shows the relationship of philosophy and nursing philosophy and science for practice. And this is not linear thinking now. At the very top is the universe of philosophy and knowledge, nursing philosophy and nursing science, nursing paradigms, meta-paradigms of nursing, nursing models, nursing theories, and nursing practice. Of course, when you can enter in any one of these, there is a resonating rhythm of going throughout the whole process. And the reason I created that was the controversy that we had about to know and to do. And you know, Rogers says you have to know first before you can do. And so that is, and once Rogers turned to me and said, John, do I have a conceptual model or paradigm? Of course, I said, Martha, I don't know. Because at that time, she asked me, I really didn't know. So to give you where I am coming from, I'll give you my definition of nursing science, which is in the book. Nursing science is a pattern body of knowledge obtained through conceptual, empirical, and philosophical processes to create, generate, and synthesize patterns of nursing knowledge from the universe of knowledge, developing a diversity of nursing theories, the essence of nursing science, essential for all dimensions of nursing for the well-becoming of humankind and the universe. When you read the literature and you talk with people, people in general are very fascinated with this idea of unitary. Unitary this, unitary that, and you name it. However, they are not all talking about the same thing, as Rogers is talking about. So when I got through wading through all that literature on unitary, I said to myself, there must be a body of knowledge to do all of this thinking. So I created the concept of unitary anthology to capture the study of unitary phenomena, to reveal the truth of the universe and humankind. And the other reason I created the term was as a tribute to Martha Rogers, because unitary as a headline for her theory didn't occur until much later in her conceptual thinking. Also, I need to give a little shout out to the Gaia literature, to recognize them, and also the goddess Gaia, who was a very powerful woman in Greek mythology. And Gaianism is a philosophical, holistic, and spiritual belief where goddess Gaia is seen as a loving mother of earth spirit, a living organism who created calm and order out of chaos. I said, oh my, that sounds like Martha Rogers. Because Rogers created with her powerful voice order out of chaos that we were having in nursing and its practice in education. Essentially, Martha is the mother of emerging science of nursing, specifically her science of unitary human beings. Because that science gives us knowledge to participate knowingly in advancing the science of nursing. And it can also be used by non-nurses to advance whatever they are concerned with within a Rogerian perspective. Also, in looking at the dictionary again for unitary, I came across the word Unitarians. And it is defined just like Martha would define it. So we're not only are we Rogerians, we are also Unitarians, not the religion Unitarian, but by the definition in the dictionary. I've always been fascinated with the origin and creation of the universe, and also the origin and creation of human beings, because it really isn't fully known. When I read the literature about creation of the universe and also human beings, there was a lot of talk about spirit. Spirit in the creation of the universe and also humankind. Philosophers and scientists present various aspects of spirit. Major religions also see spirit as significant with the idea of Holy Spirit, a sacred spirit of the earth, and the use of the breath to give life to humankind. And if you are reading in Christian literature, you know that when Jesus was baptized, the Holy Spirit descended upon him. And in reading about spirit, sometimes you didn't know whether they were talking about spirit or soul, because sometimes they were used interchangeably. So I say to myself, there's sometimes energy field by itself, even though Roger says it's a dynamic process, to me it sometimes lacked something. So I created the word energy spirit, which is a union of Roger's postulate of energy field with spirit as an integral whole, not two words. Not two words, because spirit is the essential aspect of an energy field. A unitary phenomenon, which is, by the way, it is this energy spirit that actually creates a physical body. Not that a physical body is over here, the energy spirit is over here. But it is the energy spirit that actually creates the physical body. When I was teaching a required concentration course for all master's students, the content included body image, which tends to focus on the physical body. And I said to myself, John, this is inconsistent with Rogerian science. So I did a search of the literature on image. And in that process, I came up with the idea that human field image would be consistent with Rogers' manifestations of human field patterning. A human field image deals with the wholeness of the person and mutual process with the environment with no focus on the physical body. And I found that the human field image gives you a clearer and more in-depth perception experience of one's integrality with the environment, which helps to illuminate the meaning and purpose of one's well-becoming. And I presented this idea at a conference. Sometimes after that, a student contacted Martha and wanted her to help her in her design of a human field image metaphor scale. So she consulted with Martha. When I found out this, I said, John, and Martha must like your concept for her to be consulting with a student. So that's how the concept of human field image came into play. The other thing that I was concerned with, some people just go around just hugging everyone up and down. Sometimes it just irritated me. And I had a friend who is now deceased who had a process of just hugging people and just for a long period of time. And I watched them. I said, well, evidently they like it because I don't see any reactions to it. So evidently there must have been some form of energy flow in this whole process of acceptance. And I postulate that human field hugs can occur at a distance. In fact, they can occur anywhere in the universe, using Rogers' idea of energy fields and integral with the universe and so forth. And also with that is this whole process of non-local communication that is very relevant to Roger's idea of the paranormal. And I actually saw some of this happening when we had the COVID episode. People were actually experiencing being hugged with no one there physically. No one there physically. So that human field hugs involve non-flowing thoughts with integral presence, where the huggers can perceive, experience wave frequencies and vibrations, which give a sense of integral oneness, participating in changing in a person's pattern. Now, a very important thing happened when Rogers was changing her science of unitary human beings. For years, it was four-dimensional, multidimensional, and she had great difficulty with that. And I especially had difficulty in teaching four-dimensionality to students. So one day she had a group of us. I thought it was by telephone, but someone said, no, it was in person, John. She threw out this word "n-dimensional" to us. She wasn't caring about whether we accepted it or not. She just wanted to know, is it one word or is it pan-dimensional? And we talked and talked and talked, and she never made a decision in our group. But then it appeared later on in her writings. Now, pan-dimensional awareness is very important with other concepts of Rogers' science, especially her non-local communication and the paranormal. For some reason, Rogers was very fascinated with the paranormal. In fact, I created a word to fall in line with what she had used with Homo spatialis. Homo pandimensionalists, we can be known as now. So there's a chapter on the paranormal in the book, and I give an argument for the paranormal from a Rogerian perspective. Recently, I enlarged this idea of the paranormal with new concepts that emerge in the literature, and that is the human mind. The new thinking is the brain does not create the mind. The mind can exist away from the mind, from the brain. In fact, the literature now is saying that the mind is immortal. It does not die when the physical body dies. And along with that is this whole idea of the holographic theory of the universe. You can take a hologram and cut it into pieces, and every piece will have the image of the original. And that was one of the reasons that we created a hologram portrait of Martha, so that she would be everywhere in the universe. And to help us to understand and experience some of the things that Rogers has talked about, I created the idea of pan-dimensional reverie, where you could experience pan-dimensional manifestations of human beings even after people have died. With a pan-dimensional reverie, you can communicate anywhere in the universe with dead people who have died physically are still living in the universe. However, I didn't create a method for us to do pan-dimensional reverie. All kinds of current meditation processes can be used. And somewhere along the way, and this is also in the book, about the inadequacy of our definition of health. And Martha used the word well-being. Being is static, and she said that with the new idea, becoming is the proper word. So one day it just popped in my head, John, health is well-becoming. And I defined it as participating in one's changing pattern and its manifestations for the betterment of rhythms of living and for transcending as energy spirit. In other words, the energy spirit lives in well-becoming, and the physical body is no longer present. I think I'm running out of time. Well, I have other things, but I also created the idea of a infinity symbol that overlapped the manifestations of pattern, where you could resonate back and forth and have people having different manifestations according to their patterns. The one thing I would like to mention is the world is in a turmoil about gender diverse manifestations. And in the book, I have taken Rogers science and given a view to confirm that gender diversity is an acceptable form of living that should be respected and also accepted. In fact, I wrote an op-ed piece about it in the local newspaper. Oh my goodness, the flack that I got from a reader, by the way, who was a highfalutin medical doctor. So the challenge for Rogerian scholars is to use Rogers' theory of accelerated changes in knowledge and the paranormal to create new knowledge to advance Rogers' science for the well-becoming of humankind and the universe. So that's a few of the things that I have been going through.
You're muted, Violet.
Sorry about that. Thank you, John. Now we're going to hear from Dr. Peggy Chin, the former editor for decades of Advances in Nursing Science, among other things that she's known for. And Peggy will talk about the contributions of the book to the science and in general. Peggy?
Great. Thank you so much, Violet. I'm going to share my screen, and I wish that I had already gotten this. I did have it set up, but give me just a second here. Here we go. So I'm really delighted to be able to be here today to help celebrate the launch of John Phillips' book that we see here. When Martha Rogers was with us in physical form, most of us could not grasp or even imagine what we take for granted today, much of which has been shaped forever by our experience of the pandemic. When Martha Rogers referred to the space age in her 1992 article, reprinted in the appendix of this book, as John has mentioned, she and all of us held mental images related to space travel in physical form, which of course is now accelerating as a real possibility. I'm sorry, I'll get this together here. The fact is that today we are engaging in space travel that we could not imagine in 1992. This very gathering in this virtual space is actually a form of space travel. The space that we have come to call virtual means that our images on each of our screens is delivered to each one of us as the result of a trip to outer space of each of our images, back to the dozens of screens that are perched on desks and laps all across at least one continent of the globe. We are each of us bound up in our physical bodies, but we are also at one with environments that transcend physical space-time. As you ponder this fact for just a moment, consider the realities of realms that lie beyond our limited capacities of understanding. Martha Rogers and the ideas that she endowed upon our profession, in fact, give us all an invitation to begin to see the world anew, to open to possibilities of perception that focus on realities that we know exist, but seem beyond our reach. I'm not a Rogerian scholar in the sense that many of you are today. I'm sorry, but yeah. Each time I have occasion to read the works of Rogerian scholars, to revisit Martha Rogers' original works, or engage with many of you in deep conversation related to Rogerian thought, I learn and come to a new appreciation of Rogerian nursing science. So my reading of this book as a nurse scholar who is broadly focused on the development of nursing knowledge was one of these enriching experiences. The chapters in this book bring together the articles authored by Dr. Phillips between the years of 1990 through 2023, a span of 33 years as measured in three-dimensional space-time. The first 4 of these chapters were written before Martha's death in 1994. Chapter 5, originally published in 1997, reflects the loss that John experienced. This chapter begins with these words: Martha E. Rogers is living. She did not die. Her energy field is resonating in the infinite wholeness of the universe, and the universe is her cosmic address. Then, reflecting on what this means from a Rogerian nursing perspective, Phillips emphasized that Martha Rogers herself expected to see changes and evolution in the science of nursing through all of us who study and use it. He stated, "It is the responsibility of Rogerian scholars to further elucidate and articulate the philosophy of the science of unitary human beings, so there will be continued evolution of Rogerian science and knowledge." A number of nursing scholars would be able to fill a book of this size with their writings covering such a time span, but few of us have a record of scholarship that is as deeply immersed and precisely focused on a single compelling line of thought. This is a testament not only to the nature and significance of Dr. Phillips' scholarship, but also to the significance of Rogerian nursing science. On the back cover of the book, Dr. Phillips is described as a visionary explorer in the far reaches of Rogerian nursing science, a phrase that not only describes Dr. Phillips, but also suggests the expanse that Rogerian nursing science occupies in the development of nursing knowledge. Indeed, Rogerian nursing science and the writings contained in this collection are aptly described as far-reaching, even beyond the surface of understanding that most of us grasp in our early introductions to the concepts and ideas that comprise Rogerian nursing science. As Dr. Phillips acknowledges in a number of these chapters, Rogerian nursing science is a challenge for many. At the same time, in my own experience and in reading this collection, the ideas and images of possibility for nursing practice are compelling, inviting us. I found this on the web. Compelling us to and inviting us to dwell just a little bit longer in a search for understanding that we sense is consistent with what we know in our hearts lies at the core of who we seek to be and how we seek to act as nurses. Part of this core involves escape from the medical model, which Rogers and these writings focused on Rogerian thought, both explicitly and implicitly call forth. Throughout this book, we find clear and focused suggestions for our escape, starting with nursing education from the particularistic, isolated focus on body parts that the prevailing medical model demands to a wholeness of the unitary human being. Even if we find Rogerian nursing science difficult to grasp, we as nurses cannot resist the fundamental tenet of Rogerian nursing science and fundamental to nursing itself, the tenet that the core of nursing lies in the wholeness of human beings. One of the traits that I and others such as Marlene Smith have identified as shared between and among all of the nursing theories, models, and philosophies is the trait of wholeness. This trait or concept has a broad range of interpretation, with Rogerian nursing science being a central anchor in which nursing's perspectives of wholeness is grounded. Rogerian nursing science is, in my view, at the apex of what this concept means in the fullness of possibility, a wholeness that is represented by the phrase unitary human beings. In the 5th chapter of this book, entitled Evolutionary Nursing, Evolution of the Science of Unitary Human Beings, first published in 1997, Phillips poses questions that are common in seeking to understand the intended meanings of Rogerian terms that give fullness of understanding rooted in the most basic of philosophic views of wholeness. While this chapter does shed light on what these terms and concepts mean, the prevailing message of the chapter and throughout the book comes from the typical response that Phillips recalls from Martha herself when asked questions of meaning. I'm thinking about it. Yes, there are insights, even some answers that Phillips reveals in his writings, but the more prominent and I think more important message is the compelling expectation and invitation to develop, extend, and build on the concepts of Rogerian nursing science, to continue to think about it. Even in the process of seeking to understand some of the concepts that are beyond those that are commonly understood, there is the lure that is, to many, irresistible, the possibility that concepts are open for all of us to engage, to discuss, to challenge, and to extend in our own contexts. Yes, many Rogerian scholars have certain ideas about those interpretations that they deem as correct or consistent with the fundamental meanings that Martha Rogers intended, and we all learn from these interpretations. But at the same time, as John Phillips reiterates many times in the book, there is the anticipation, the hope, the expectation that nurse scholars of the present and the future will carry this work forward to new horizons. At times, these efforts may seem at odds with or not precisely consistent with what some believe is Martha Rogers' intentions, but many nurse scholars have pushed ahead, indeed, following Martha's own typical response, I'm thinking about it. As a result of the thinking and creating that arises from Rogerian nursing science, we can now identify that nursing, that the impressive array of new thinking in nursing that has evolved to the level of new nursing theory as documented on the neurosology.net theory page devoted to Rogerian unitary nursing science, where this image comes from, an image that was developed by Jackie Fawcett for the neurosology.net website. The nursing theories grounded in or significantly influenced by Rogerian nursing science that Fawcett identified at the time we first launched neurosology.net in September 28 is indeed an impressive list. And I'm not going to read through these, but I do have them all listed on the slides. The ones that appear in green are actually links that you can go to the theory, for instance, Health is Expanding Consciousness by Newman, the page on neurosology.net that shows her theory. The ones that don't have a link mean that we have not yet developed a theory page for these particular theories that derive from or were influenced by Rogerian nursing science, but we hope to be able to develop these and post them before too long. We still have a lot of work to do on neurosology.net, but we are so proud of what we have so far. So as I close my remarks, I want to focus on actions that we can all engage to move the status quo of the present to the new frontiers that are ours to create. In chapter 14, New Rogerian Theoretical Thinking about Unitary Science, Phillips suggests that we design and implement unitary think tanks to create knowledge for Rogers science and the science of unitariology, which is the study of unitary phenomena. The idea of the think tank was put into action by Rogerian scholar Margaret Newman, in fact, in the 1980s, which I described in a neurosology.net blog post on November 13th and an update on December 3rd, 2018. I have links to all this in the hard copy or the PDF copy of my remarks. And if anybody wants them, contact me and I'll be glad to send these remarks to you. So today I propose that we put this idea into action anew. We can use our now familiar virtual context to do this, but there is still merit in gathering in a physical space with colleagues who share a desire, even a love of deep and prolonged reflection and debate, a process of thinking about it out loud without judgment or premature closure. Take a look at the nurse scholars and the other people in your own environment and make a plan today to have your own think tank to give rise to and discuss your own thinking about it processes. This is the only picture that I have from the think tanks that one of the think tanks that I attended. We assume that Margaret must have taken this picture because she's not in it, but she was definitely there because she was there for all of them. And I just will go through who the people who were there are seated. I'm in the blue, then Beverly Hall, Jackie Fawcett, Elizabeth C., and then standing left to right, Afaf Melise, Kay Avant, Lorraine Walker, Ellen Egan, and Artis Swanson. Another action proposal that Phillips speaks to is the need for nursing knowledge, nursing theory as a basis for nursing curricula. I have often pondered, would any other discipline conduct educational programs with no mention of the theories of their discipline? It is far beyond the scope of our purposes here today, but I urge everyone present to immediately take action to correct the circumstance if you have not already done so. Now that we have, I think it's terrible that we often don't even mention nursing theories until graduate level education. I think that's changing, and it will change in the near future, I hope, but I really hope that everybody here will do this, especially now that we have the wonderful resources available on nursology.net. There's absolutely no excuse for any nursing education program to be ignoring the rich theoretical heritage that we have in our own discipline. This is the model that is the curriculum at the Florida Atlantic University has developed as a basis for their curriculum. And then the Heritage University curriculum in Toppenish, Washington, located on the Yakima Reservation, is based on nursing's patterns of knowing. And this is a drawing that one of their students, now graduated, formed to depict her concept of emancipatory knowing. Her name is Tasha Gomez Jones.
Oh, thank you, Peggy.
Oh, I'm not
Oh,
quite
okay, sorry.
as, okay, just a couple minutes more. As Phillips has stated, in speaking of nursology.net, there remains much work to be done in the development of the theories already documented and more to come. Indeed, this is precisely the door that opens when viewing the Theories and Models gallery on nursology.net. So I invite you all to just take a few moments to dwell with this gallery, scanning the theories and models that we have so far been able to include on the site. And I would ask that I have one last suggestion for all of us to consider the ideas that John has contributed to the discipline. And he mentioned the idea of gender diversity. I think that this concept and a number of others that John mentions in the book have yet to be more fully developed and extended, and issues that deserve focused consideration. Particularly the chapter on gender diversity, I think, is an important one that opens the door for much more discussion around the evolution of gender from a perspective of Rogerian nursing science. So, John, I extend to you my deep appreciation for the ideas and the possibilities that you have given to all of us in this book. I know that your process in developing and extending these ideas has been at the core of your career, your work, your heart. It is my honor to participate with you today as we launch this collection of your work and stand in eager anticipation of all that is to come in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peggy. It looks like we are about out of time. So I am just going to hold up the book again. It is definitely not a slender volume. Again, it is available on Amazon and it is available through Ingram Spark. The paperback copy is $24.99, which is a real steal for all of the information in here. And the ebook is $9.99. Please, if you are not already a member of the Society of Rogerian Scholars, do consider joining us. Society of Rogerian Scholars.org. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. Go buy your book.